in San Francisco right now, the highest build permit pulls is ADUs right now. They're not built because it's so expensive for
So
land
expensive there.
that basically the only thing that's happening is people turning their current land into multiple units. And we don't have a choice. Like, it's going to have to happen.
Welcome to the Posner Property Perspective. And today is very exciting. We're here with Susan Pryor. Not only is she an amazing loan officer, but she has a passion for helping people who need alternative living situations. And some people call them tiny homes or auxiliary dwelling units. And she has really explored this and owns a company now that is launching with making this affordable to people, and it really solves a lot of problems. So Susan, if you want to give a little bit of your background, we met through VA loans, which you're still very passionate about. So introduce yourself to our audience.
Sure. Well, it's I appreciate you asking me to participate. That's very kind of you. I have been in the mortgage business since 2001, and which dates me a little bit. Don't tell anybody. And have always come at it from different angles, whether it be serving seniors with reverse mortgages or really focusing on helping first-time home buyers. And what I've found over the course of the last few years is that we're starting to have a real housing problem. We don't really have a place for our seniors to live, and we don't really have a place for our young people to live. If it's great if you're one of us who was able to buy our house back when housing prices were lower and interest rates were 3%, we have monthly housing payments that fit into our lifestyles very well. But the people who have to buy now, or even rent, like I have a 26-year-old, to just rent a 1-bedroom apartment is $2,000+ in a decent neighborhood. And then we have seniors who, as we age, we want to move near family. And it used to be that the house next door was the answer, but now the house next door is $900,000. And so it was through that frustration of how difficult it was for first-time home buyers to buy and what do we do with seniors that we launched Curated ADU homes last year. And our model is to help families adapt to intergenerational housing, whatever that looks like. That could be, because that's really the only answer. The only answer to the housing problem is intergenerational living. So those of us who are in the sandwich are balancing both sides of it. And so our goal is to help people adapt the current home to allow living spaces for multi-generations. And oftentimes most of the time that means building a luxury accessory dwelling unit that's actually separate from the house. That is maybe 300 to, well, I haven't even built one that small. 450 to about 1,000 square feet is kind of that range of what you're building normally. And it's anything from like a studio to, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, or a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, but it's brand new, pretty construction. Your mom wants to be near you, but she doesn't want to live in the basement in general. And sometimes that's the only answer, and that works. But if she can have a luxury apartment that's brand new construction where she gets to pick the countertops and all the things, she can be very happy in her own space with her own front door and her own kitchen. I'm a big believer that we as adults sharing a kitchen is just the number of times, so if you have your own
Many cooks in the kitchen.
right. I mean, it's just, how many times do you fight? I mean, my kids still live with me for a minute, and how many times do we fight over just the dishes in the sink or whatever? Like, if everybody just has their own little space, we can do intergenerational living more affordably.
So one of the things you and I have talked about, because I do a lot of downsizing, and then I've been working with clients who have children with special needs, who can never fully live on their own. Several of them are working and doing, but they can't fully launch, but they want independence, and they're able to do a lot. And they can't find answers. And I really think this is the answer, is building them a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. They can have their own space. They can take ownership of it. They can feel proud of it. They keep it, and everyone's happy.
Yeah. Yes. And I'm actually in the process of doing that for my own family right now. So I have a 26-year-old son who's a waiter, and I'm grateful that he can do that and that he gets up and he goes to that job. But realistically, it will be forever before he evolves to a place where he can afford a $2,000 a month apartment. But
Oh, yeah.
but at 26, we also aren't, it's not a good idea for us all to live together. It really isn't. And so right now I live in Cobb County. I have a small downsized house, but it's on a pretty big lot. And so it's 2,000 square feet in my primary house. And so we are building a accessory dwelling unit for him to live in with a roommate. It's 600 square feet on the main level, and it's 300 square feet on the top. So the upstairs has a bedroom and a bathroom. And then downstairs is a beautiful kitchen and a half bath and laundry room. And so it's plenty of space for, the young people. They don't even want big spaces.
No, they're very happy. And when he does decide to move out, it could become a rental income for you. Or if you have parents at that point who need to move in,
Yeah.
there's a lot of different options. And like you say, it makes everyone happy. My son also, he's in DC and he's paying over $2,100 a month. And now he's talking about law school. And I'm like, you don't want them in debt. So able to help your kids get established is such a big gift.
Yeah. And I mean, for me, it gives me that peace, like, okay, once I do this, I know he'll be okay. Like, he can make enough money to pay us a little bit of rent, pay the car insurance. Like, he's going to be able to survive month to month. I just don't see, like, if he tries to launch into an apartment or a rental house or whatever, just there's so many things that can go wrong with that, especially based on where they would have to live to be able to afford it. And, we still have daily stuff even at 26. My son is amazing, but he has had some challenges. And like just making sure that the registration for the car gets done, that the lights that are going off in the car actually get paid attention to. Like, we literally have an electronic monitor on his car, like some kids, and then I have another one I'll never have to worry about again. Right. So some kids just need a little bit more, whatever. But now I feel like once I move him into that space, he can absolutely have his independence. He can be him and be his own Messi over there or whatever. But I know that he's going to be safe.
Taken care of.
Yeah, I know he's going to be safe. And because if he goes into an apartment, who's going to have to co-sign anyway? Right. I mean, like, reality is there's a whole portion of this generation that cannot handle the cost of living that we have right now.
Yeah, it's a difficult time right now. And then the market's all changing. But you're also adding value to your own property.
Exactly.
So you're enhancing your investment of your home. So
right. And that's a big deal. Like, if you went into FMLS right now and searched for homes that had an apartment or an accessory dwelling unit, there would be an extremely small number of homes that had a separate apartment. So it's a very desirable feature that you're adding to your home. I will tell you that most of our clients is this situation where mom and dad lived together for their whole lives. It's our parents, right? They lived together their whole lives. They were very careful with money. When dad passes away, when mom sells the house and she doesn't want to live alone anymore in whatever remote part of wherever she is, when she sells her home, she's going to have about $400,000 in her whole life. That's her whole family's life savings, is $300,000 or $400,000. Maybe it's 200. The question is, how does she retire? She's better, she's healthier, she's stronger if she's near family. And, retirement communities can be amazing, but there's some depressive component to that too, right? Like, you're watching everybody age. Like, sometimes it's fun to just hang out with the young people. So my clients, more times than not, are building on family property. Maybe it's $150,000, $200,000 they're spending to build this place of the family wealth. But what does that do? That transfers the family wealth into the family, because
Right.
then that improves the value of the home. If she goes into a retirement community, she's dumping her entire life savings into the retirement community, and it doesn't get passed down to future generations.
And she can go through it all very quickly.
Exactly. And then what? Right. And then
Right.
then you've got a crisis, and what I tried to express to my parents, and I have to say, when my parents lived in Tennessee, and when I got them to move to Atlanta, I won't say they were extremely happy when I encouraged them to do that, but now they're very happy. And my point was, we can wait till there's a crisis and we can deal with that. But when that happens, you don't get a lot of choices.
Right.
If we do this now, we can build you a beautiful home in a 55 and up community, or whatever it is that they want. You get to pick the color of the wall and the cabinets and the countertops, and we can do this in a very graceful, organized way. Or we can wait until it's a crisis. I just don't think you're going to like it when the crisis comes. And so, yeah.
I don't know if there's a country singer, Cooper Allen, and he has a song out. It's called A Hard Acre to Sell. And I don't know if you've heard it yet, but
I haven't, but I'll have to look it up.
You have to look it up, because it's just about what we're talking about. He's driving his truck, and the song goes, he sees an old man putting a sign out that says for sale, and he drives up and asks him. And the whole song is about how he had hoped, the man who owned the house had hoped he was going to live there throughout his life with his wife. His wife has passed, and now he just can't keep the home up. And I'm like, has he been listening to my phone calls? Because
Yeah.
this is what I hope I've been dealing with. And it's so true, because what happens is I have several clients right now that when they sell their home, they're going to clear 300, maybe 400,000, but there's no place for them to go.
Yeah. Yes, there's not. Yeah. And what's the point of retiring and being near your grandkids if you have to live an hour out from them? Right. Like, I mean, that's not the quality of life we all wanted to retire to. We wanted to be 10 feet away so we can go to the baseball game with them or whatever. And there's benefits to the family as well. Like, oftentimes when they're young kids in the family and the parents are on the property, then, just think about when you were a young mom, if you could have just had somebody come stand in your house while the kid naps so you could go to the grocery store. It's the little things like that building intergenerational living. Of course, we all got to have, you can't do this in families where they don't get along at all. And we do get more ornery as we get older. And so there's that. But where I've seen it come together has been really beautiful, because it's been good for both parties. There's somebody let the dog out, or be there when the plumber comes, and just the little things that need to be done. One of the stories that I tell is, how many times does your mother, who's 80, I have 7 80-year-olds in my life, which is,
wow.
I have a handful. Anyway.
Full docket.
Yeah. How many times do you get a phone call that's like, my phone doesn't do what it used to do before, or the clicker, whatever, or I can't tell you how many times printers have been chaos for my 80-year-olds, because the printers don't behave. They work one time, and then you don't use them for 3 months, and then they don't work the next time. And so if they're right down the street or they're in the backyard, it's way easier to deal with those little things. Otherwise, it's virtually impossible. It makes you want to jump out a window. So the little things about intergenerational living really can be valuable.
And how have you found, in reference to like the financing part of it? So are you helping them with that as well? Do they get a construction loan? How does that work if they need to?
Sure. And that's, kind of how the businesses came together, was we figured that every time there was a build like this, there'd be a financial component to it. And, certainly some people do come to it with a certain amount of cash. Most of my the children, what do we call it? The sandwiches, most of us have a bunch of equity in our home. And so, like, to build mine, I just did an equity line of credit on my house. That's the easiest, cleanest thing to do, is to just get an equity line of credit, because then you're not dealing with construction draws and all that kind of stuff. So that's one option. If you buy,
Susan, I'm going to stop you for a second, because you and I understand what a home equity loan is,
Yes.
but what I've realized is I've had a few customers that are in their 30, like mid 30s, and I mentioned to them getting a home equity loan, and they had no idea what I was talking about.
Yeah.
So you were kind of explaining, like let's say you've owned your home for the last 6, maybe 10 years. Some of these young couples, they have equity in their home.
Right.
And that could allow them to maybe pay off some debt that they got, or it could allow them to then invest in real estate or to build one of these units.
So basically if you own a $600,000 home and you have a $300,000 mortgage, then the difference between the 300 and the 600 is your equity position. And so there are loans out there that are a little bit like a credit card, but they're secured against your home with much lower interest rates. And it allows you to say, okay, I want to be able to access up to $200,000 of that money. And you can write a check and pay it back and write a check and pay it back. The reason that is a good option right now is because so many people have that first mortgage that's at 2 or 3%, and we don't want to get rid of it.
And you don't want to touch it.
And so that tends to be the option that people go with. You could do a refinance and just cash out that money and have one big loan for the whole thing. So if interest rates continue to come down, then it might make more sense to do a combined loan and just get the cash out when you do a refinance. There's also the construction option is actually a renovation program for these properties, because there's already a house on the property. It's considered a renovation to add a second home. And so there are renovation loans that will allow you to be a new first mortgage and give you the money to build the accessory dwelling unit. It's actually the most popular use of the Fannie Mae home style loan, which is a renovation loan. The most popular use for that is to build accessory dwelling units. It's just done more in like California, in the Northeast. It just hasn't caught on as much here. In San Francisco right now, the highest build permit pulls is ADUs right now. They're not built because it's so expensive
there.
That basically the only thing that's happening is people turning their current land into multiple units. And we don't have a choice. Like it's going to have to happen. So the other thing that is, I think, a really good thing to know about financing is that if you wanted to buy a home and build an accessory dwelling unit, like, so you're out searching with Jeanie for a property, and you think you might want to move your daughter, your son, your mom, or you want to rent it out. Then what you do is you get a loan to purchase and build in one big loan at the purchase. So that can be done as well. And that's a pretty effective, interest rate wise, that's a pretty effective technology or loan.
So this is really serving a need, because I see more multi-generational living coming up. I think we're going to see more of that because of the expense of homes and having mom and dad close by. So I think this is going to fill a need that, especially if I live in Dunwoody, and a lot of the older homes are in large lots.
Yes.
But we have no 55 and older community. And a lot of people don't want to, they want to stay in Dunwoody. Their kids moved here, but there's no place for them to go. And they don't want the 3,000 square foot home anymore.
Right.
So if their son or daughter-in-law or whoever can, build them a tiny home in the backyard, works out.
Yes. And there's all kinds of adaptations to that, because I hear exactly that a lot. We love this neighborhood, but there's no master on the main. So maybe the option for them, we have one client where we just are building a master suite for them. So it's a house that normally all the bedrooms are upstairs, excuse me. And so what we're just doing is we're just adding on in the backyard and master suite. So there's a master on the main and there's a master ensuite. And then their idea is that the kids could come live in the main house. But even if not, they'd love their house. They don't want to leave their neighborhood. just they need a master on the main. Then I have clients who will build the ADU on their property and they'll for them to move into. If you think about it, most of us as we age, we don't really spend, we're in the kitchen, the bedroom, and the main family room, right? Like how much more space do you really need anyway? So if you get to build it and make it perfect and it's gorgeous and it's brand new and you don't have to look at that place in your main house where that everything's scuffed up or whatever because the house is older, that kind of older house, new house thing, they'll build them and then maybe they'll rent out the main property, right? So they get to stay in their neighborhood, they get to rent out the main property and get the rental income and still live in the accessory dwelling unit, or the kids come live in the main property and they live in the accessory dwelling unit. So it just depends on who owns the land as to how we do this. So our goal really is just we've got a challenge and we've got a piece of land, and our process is just to kind of help everybody figure out the right way to do it. Each municipality has different rules. City of Marietta is different than Cobb County, unincorporated Cobb County. City of Smyrna is different than unincorporated Cobb County. Woodstock is different than Canton. Like everything, so the first thing we do is we look at your address and figure out which municipality runs your particular property. And it depends on whether you're actually in the city or you're in the county. So like unincorporated Cobb is kind of the biggest challenge. Gwinnett, Cumming, the city of Atlanta, DeKalb, all of that is pretty friendly to accessory dwelling units. Cobb is actively hostile to accessory dwelling units. And so I live in Cobb, so we had to figure it out. So basically the way we did it was we had to build that ADU as an attachment to the house. And then it's just a home addition. So there's a way to do what you want to do. It's just about trying to figure out what they want to do. And then how do I fit it on their lot? And how do I get through the zoning, the local zoning? But it's fun. It's for me, just go from talking about only numbers all the time to getting to talk to people about walk the backyard and talk about where this new place could be. It's been a fun thing for me I get to know people at a much deeper level.
So do you work with, does architects, like how do you walk them through the process? When they come to you, what are the steps involved?
Sure. Well, so first I obviously do a free consultation to just understand what they're doing. Then sometimes it'll require me to do some research to figure out the best way to accommodate what they want to accomplish. I do all that as just to even figure out whether there's value to a relationship or not. Then we will bring in a builder. I have several builders. I don't actually do the builds. I have several builders that work in different municipalities. And then I will ask that builder to help me figure out what the scope of the project is, because we also don't want to start spending the client's money if the scope isn't going to match what they can afford. So we're going to have that conversation. If all of that is good, then we're going to have a contract to do architecture. First thing is a survey. So we order a survey. We hire an architect. I have 2 that I work with, depending on the area. And we're going to go through that. And then we're going to bring the builder in through that process as well, because the architects and builders don't think the same way. So the architect will think this is gorgeous. And the builder will say, that's going to cost $5,000. And so we want them to be on the same page through that process. And then once we get the plans, we go to permitting. And so I am sort of a little bit kind of done at the end of permitting. Once the permitting is approved, I've sort of done my part. And then they can either choose to use one of my builders or their own builder. And if you choose one of my builders, then I'm sort of there along the way to like deal with any stuff that gets confusing, because sometimes that happens. And yeah.
How long have you seen the process typically last from them getting to you to getting the key?
Sure. Of course, that varies based on the county, and permitting in Cobb can take a very short period of time, whereas permitting in the city of Atlanta could take.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
So it just depends. I mean, I think you're probably realistically the soonest you're going to be through from begin to like you're gung ho and you're going to make quick decisions and whatever is probably 6 months is probably about as fast as you're going to be able to do it to be done. And, but the builders have been building these now for a minute, and so they at least know, they know who to call, they know what the challenges are, and they can move, faster than you would think. Then you just have to get through, some of the builders use private inspectors, which makes the inspection process not as painful. So it's just all about the nuances. It's the biggest challenge is that it still costs money. People want to do these for $100,000, and then unfortunately you're more like 200. And that is the hardest thing is they think it's going to be cheap to build. It is the only way the county is going to let you do this. Like, they're not going to let you, if you tell your mom you want her to live in an ADU, she's going to think you mean that shack that's on Amazon that people, and the county will not let you put that shack from Amazon. Like, everybody thinks they're going to do it themselves, and they're going to press the button, and that $10,000 thing is going to become a house. And, all that is wood. Like, the foundation is probably the most expensive part of all this. You got to hook to utilities. You got to move trees. There's just lots and lots of little pieces that people think are going to be easier. But if they're realistic about the price, then the good news is you're going to get that back when you sell the house. Like, you're going to get, in the city of Atlanta, we have found that you get somewhere from $75,000 to $100,000 more than the cost to build in increase in value. That's been our experience over the last few years. Now, who knows? The market's doing all kind of weird stuff right now, but I do think you get your money back. So if it solves a family problem and you're going to get the value in the home, that's what you got to weigh.
Right. And I think that's the great thing, is that you can get mom and dad or a child nearby. You're building equity. You're not paying either a rent, or you're not paying assisted living and depleting all the funds. So like you say, it continues to build that family wealth that you can pass on.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
important aspect.
Yes. And I do think, like I said, I think it goes with that whole thing about, I think that our seniors do better when they're connected to the family somehow, even if it's 15 minutes a day that you got to go sit and have coffee with your mama in the morning before you went to work or whatever. Like, the value of that is priceless.
And the value that it gives to grandchildren is tremendous.
Yes.
So yes, I think everyone benefits, and even mom and dad who just sometimes need half an hour alone, It's like, and grandma and grandpa can step in and take care of the kids for a little bit. Everyone does better. So yeah. I truly see the benefit. I want to thank you for coming on today. I think this is definitely a step in our future. I see it filling a lot of different needs for families, and all your information, how people can get in touch with you, will be below. And I want to thank you, Susan, for joining us today. And like I always say, we'll see you at the closing table.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning into the Posner Property Perspective. I hope you enjoyed today's episode and found it helpful as you navigate your real estate journey. Remember, whether you're buying, selling, or just exploring the market, I'm here to help to make the process smooth, exciting, and stress-free. Let's take the next step together. Contact me today. I'd love to hear from you and make your real estate wishes come true.